Hi, everybody. I know that there are still a few folks logging on to join us, but I just wanted to go ahead and welcome you to today's webinar, Small Surveys, Big Impact, Using Feedback to Retain Drivers and Improve Satisfaction. My name is Gabby Parker, and I'm here with today's hosts, Becca Mathews and Davis Frohrip. For everyone who has made time in their busy day to be with us today, welcome and thanks for hanging out with us for the next hour or so. I'm excited for Becca and Davis to dive in and show us the power of FleetCheck, but first I have a few housekeeping items. This webinar will be recorded and sent to you within the next 24 hours, so don't worry if you get interrupted or have to jump off the call. You'll get a link to the recording sent to the email address you used to register 24 hours after this webinar ends. We will be hosting a Q&A session at the end, but please feel free to send your questions in at any time throughout the webinar. To ask a question, please use the text box under the questions section in your GoToWebinar panel. With all that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over to Becca and Davis and let them get this show on the road.
Perfect. Thank you, Gabby. We are excited to be here. I'm Becca Mathews, one of the advisors here at 10th Street, and this is one of my favorite topics, talking to the carriers about how they can use feedback to make a meaningful impact on their driver retention. Gabby, if we can go to the next slide. Perfect. So today, Davis and I are really going to talk about ways to create communications with your drivers to look at overall fleet satisfaction that really helps enable your retention plan. Before we get started, we just wanted to give a quick poll to the audience. We want to understand how many of you guys are using surveys today to communicate with your drivers. You can select yes or no, but I'd like to get an idea just to see if anyone has surveys in place.
Becca, I'll let this for a few more seconds, but it looks like we're pretty even with the yes or no's. It's about 43 to 57 yes versus no.
I love it. I love it. Great. So we'll let this close up and then we'll kind of dive in. So we're split here. I love that a lot of you guys have a positive impact. You're doing something today in terms of driver surveys, and we're really going to dive into continuing that driver engagement. So you can see here on the screen, here's the quick poll results. So just under, just under half of you guys are doing something today. That's great news. So let's kind of dive back in and really focus on talking about ways that we can create better engagement within your fleet. Gabby, if we can go to the next slide. Perfect. And are you guys seeing the slides? I think I lost the slide on my side.
Becca, if you just push the little go to meeting button at the bottom, It should pop it back up for you.
We are in real time, things happen. But okay, today we're going to introduce you to FleetCheck. And FleetCheck is a really powerful way to gather quick information, quick feedback from your drivers in an anonymous way. And so I always like to think about FleetCheck as a way to say, hey, let's look at overall health of our fleet. We can use questions like the traditional NPS question. If you guys are not familiar with NPS, that's the Net Promoter Score question, where we can essentially ask a driver on a scale of 1 to 5, how likely they are to recommend your fleet to another driver. That way you can get an overall sense of your fleet's health. Do you have a bunch of drivers who are scoring you high, scoring you 4s and 5s, meaning yes, we're supporters of the company, we love the company, and we would actually recommend other drivers to come work for you? Or do you have more disengaged drivers, right? Scoring you 1s and 2s. If you have that problem, you're going, hey, we have some disengagement going. Now you have data and information to work with to dive in deeper to find out where this disengagement is coming from. FleetCheck also allows you to identify any potential retention risks early on, right? And so we want to create a proactive solution for you guys to look at things like, hey, where are some areas that we need to improve? Where are some bottlenecks that we have in our company? And are there any people problems that we really need to dive into, or location-specific problems that we need to get more feedback on? The way that this is going to work is these anonymous surveys can be set up as a one-time quick survey that needs to go out. So we can ask 1 to 2 questions quickly, and you can say, hey, I need to schedule a survey out tomorrow because I know that there's this issue that we keep hearing about. I need to get some further feedback. Or You could do more of a satisfaction question that can go out weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly. So you have the power of setting up either a cadence or doing it as a one-time survey. The great part about this is you're going to get data, right? And on top of this data, you're going to get visuals to compile this data and have a report that can be shared with the team as well. We'll go to the next slide. So why even start to do this, right? When I always talk about driver communication and we start to think, if you're not doing anything today in terms of sending out surveys, keep in mind that it's sometimes harder for drivers to give raw feedback over the phone, right? Maybe they're not comfortable calling and telling their dispatcher that there's an issue going on. But if you send them an open-ended survey, they can type in what that problem is. There's different methods that drivers like to be communicated with. Sometimes that phone call doesn't work for them. This gives them another avenue, right? Secondly is, again, if it's a sensitive topic or issue, they don't necessarily want their name surrounded with that issue. They don't want any repercussions. So it builds trust within your fleet as well. So these remain anonymous, but the cool thing that Davis will talk about later is they can self-reveal if they want help or they want to share deeper information and get somebody to reach out. In addition, this is real-time feedback. So as that survey goes out, you're going to see those responses come right back into your dashboard for actionable data and to build a more meaningful and engaged relationship with those drivers. We'll go to the next slide. All right, so real ways to use FleetCheck. I always like to talk to carriers about this when you're going, how do I ask questions? What do I ask questions around? And I put myself in when I was over on the carrier side. I remember having drivers walk into my terminal and I would hear issues like, hey, I'm having issues with my truck getting fixed, right? It's been in the shop for X amount of days. And I'd hear this common theme, but I was just a remote terminal, right? I had corporate terminal that were, several states away. And so how could I actually get to resolve this problem for the drivers? So you start to hear rumblings of an issue. That is a perfect opportunity for you to create a quick survey and send it to a specific work list or location, right? You can gather that feedback. Is this just an issue that I'm having with one driver, or does this issue stem across the fleet, right? So that's one way you can use FleetCheck. Another really powerful way is, say you implement a new program. Maybe you put a new telematics system in the trucks. You want to get driver feedback, how it's working. Maybe you got brand new trucks and you want feedback on the upgrade to the new trucks. Or maybe you put a new program in place, like a driver wellness program, and you want to see how drivers are responding. These are all powerful ways to be able to use that through the FleetCheck tool. And of course, if you have deeper, more sensitive issues surrounding maybe a specific terminal location, maybe a specific dispatcher or person, you might need to dive in and ask more sensitive questions, which you can also do using our FleetCheck tool. Gabby, we'll go to the next slide, please. Perfect. So we're going to talk about passing it over to Davis and talking about what that FleetCheck experience looks like. And then we're going to give you a visual to go experience what FleetCheck can do for you as well. Davis, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Becca. So FleetCheck, we've gone kind of on a quick how it helps, how you can use it. And my side of this is going to be sort of how you can implement it and how you can get the nitty-gritty of it configured in your tool. So FleetCheck is going to give you some options. And one of the very cool pieces about it is that there is a lot of flexibility built into the FleetCheck tool. You can set questions for a scale of feedback. So maybe you do need some hard data to be able to say, you know what, this new onboarding program isn't working, or there have been real problems with our telematics. And so you can get a rating to give your executive team or your leadership some more actionable data to actually go make changes on. Or you can also say, I don't really need the hard data. I'm more looking for context around a question. And so you can turn off this set scale and you can leave it as an open response. So maybe you're looking to host your driver appreciation cookout and you want to know if people want brisket or pulled pork, you can just set an open response question like that. Super simple, and you can let people reply as they would like. Another powerful feature that we've upgraded in the last year or so is that you no longer have to set a FleetCheck to send at a recurring cadence. A lot of people really enjoyed setting a quarterly survey to go out and just pulse their fleet, but we found that there was a need to send out at a specific date and even a couple of times a day. So you'll be able to do a one-off survey that sends on a specific date, and you have the ability to choose the morning, the middle of the day, or the afternoon. As we get into the kind of configurations of the tool, one thing that we also get a lot of questions on is how are my drivers engaging with this FleetCheck? So as always, we have kind of two ways. They'll be able to complete it through the driver pulse app, where they would get a fly-in notification that a task has been assigned to them. And then they'll also get an email notification in the event that they do not have Driver Pulse downloaded. They'd be able to click their link and take them directly to their portal where they can complete the FleetCheck for you. Now, FleetChecks are going to be a little bit unique compared to some of the other tasks. Most things in 10th Street that we assign live for about 30 days. But because FleetChecks are designed to be quick and nimble, we want all of the responses back in a quicker time frame. And so these are going to last for 7 days. This allows you to send out more frequent FleetChecks with different topics to kind of streamline, so you don't have maybe 7 different FleetChecks active in a driver's tasks at one point. And then lastly, Becca touched on this. Drivers have the ability to remain anonymous, or they can choose to self-disclose. And in the event of self-disclosing, all they need to do is click a little toggle that says, yep, share my name, and you will have that data in your dashboard. Gabby, we can go on to the next slide. And this is going to be really where we connect receiving that data and turning it into kind of actionable progress for your drivers. So as we walk through the FleetCheck tool, you'll be able to see the surveys come back in a nice table where all of the responses can be sorted and viewed. You have a kind of high-level bar graph. But the important thing to think about is you're not just asking a question for the question's sake. You're trying to get to a point. And we encourage everyone who sends out the FleetCheck to come back in and to really review the results, what they've sent out, and then prepare a response back to the fleet. This is commonly referred to as closing the communication loop or the feedback loop. And it's a really healthy practice when sending your drivers communication that's kind of requesting them to do something. It acknowledges that you are listening to them. It kind of bolsters the fact that they're included in the decision, and they have kind of a better awareness of how their feedback is going to be implemented into any changes, or maybe it won't be implemented, but the fact that you guys have taken the time to review it and let them know that someone got eyes on this can be enough. Maybe you aren't giving out, that 200% bonus to everyone this year. That's just not possible. But the fact that you guys have looked at the real concerns and feedback and let them know that that's made it to the team is really important. And then jumping over to our last slide, that's going to be kind of using the 10th Street tools, FleetCheck, rewards, broadcast, insights, if you utilize that, to build a holistic retention strategy. And so with that, Gabby, if you don't mind making me the presenter, I can go ahead and demo our FleetCheck tool in the dashboard.
Davis,
right.
while we're waiting to view your screen, we actually did have a question come in about how you can access FleetCheck. They're not an admin on the TinStream account, so maybe you could walk them through the process of getting started with FleetCheck.
Yes, that's a great question, especially for people who have never utilized the tool. I'm praying right now that you guys can see a screen that has something to do with some insights and some FleetCheck. Is that the case?
And
Perfect. All right. So you guys might be more familiar with a screen that looks like this, maybe something like this when you first log into your TinStream dashboard. To get to our FleetCheck tool today, we're going to navigate up to our tools ribbon at the top of the screen. And you will see your classic available tools. FleetCheck is going to exist inside of a tile called Insights. And if you haven't heard of Insights before, we could do an entire other webinar over this tool. It's sort of the big brother of the FleetCheck tool, where we have some larger surveys set off of status changes, but the FleetCheck tool is going to live within Insights. And so hopefully you all followed there, where we go to Tools, we find Insights, and then we click on the FleetCheck tab. If you guys find that you're utilizing this tool a lot, you have the ability to come in and make it your home page. And so this was already the home page, but you would be able to click that push pin and it will actually pop up as one of your homepage tools. So instead of navigating over, you would be able to just click on one of your tiles and drop down to a tab, and you would have your FleetCheck tool pulled up. Now, FleetCheck is going to be a tool that sends out company-wide communication. And so as a default, we limit it to primary users, but primary users or anyone with control panel access is actually able to come in and grant tool access to other users. So if you have the tool today and you want to get more team members in, you can go over to your users and then you could select them. And then in the user access, if we scroll down a bit, there are the engagement tools, and FleetCheck will just have a yes or no. If you guys are not currently paying for the FleetCheck tool yet, this will be grayed out, and so no one would be able to go and turn it on, but you could reach out to an account manager or your advisor for more questions and information on adding this tool to your dashboard. So jumping back into our FleetCheck tool, just a couple of clicks here. We'll wait up to load. The idea that we have with this first screen is going to be just a quick at a glance, how are these surveys performing? So if we look in the last month, you're going to be able to see how many surveys you've already delivered, what the completion rate is for that survey, and then how many people have actually been sent, and then how many have received it. So if you want to see more time, it's as simple as selecting your toggles out. And I might have a little bit better dashboard for some of the time frames. So you can see in another demo site here that we have, 17 different unique fleet checks have been sent out in the last year, with 568 people receiving them. And then of course, 7, which if we go and look at it, they're probably all 7 of them me for different things. And then a very impressive 1.2% completion rate. And as we toggle back over, underneath our Outlook is going to be 2 different tabs of upcoming surveys versus sent surveys. And so upcoming will be the surveys that you have queued up to deliver, but they have not yet sent. And it's pretty simple to store up a lot of FleetCheck surveys at one time and then set them to send out on your specific cadence or date. So I'm going to walk into that real quick by clicking the new FleetCheck survey. It'll open up a little window here. and you have the chance to title your FleetCheck. I would definitely recommend giving it an informative title, but it's important to note that this FleetCheck title is only going to be internal. So your subjects that are receiving it are not going to have the title associated. This is more for your records on the back end. So maybe you want to call it something like the onboarding FleetCheck with a specific date if you plan on asking multiple different onboarding questions. And then underneath that, you get to choose the different questions, or rather the question types. So I had mentioned earlier, you have your on a scale of 1 to 5 style question, and then you also have your open response question. If you want to set up the survey to only utilize an open response, so you basically send out whatever is entered in here, you would just turn off this 1 to 5 question. If you would like to include the 1 to 5, you can just toggle it back on and then edit the text. Now, we think as a best practice, it's important to note that you should include the on a scale of 1 to 5 and then mark out your parameters of what they mean. You don't want to say, you know, a question that makes no sense to be answered on a scale of 1 to 5. So you don't want to say, on a scale of 1 to 5, what did you eat for lunch yesterday? That's not going to make any sense for them. So this should be kind of tailored to fit the response style that your drivers are going to receive. And the default that we put in here is going to be that Net Promoter Score question that Becca talked about. Those NPS items are going to be how likely you are to recommend your company to another driver. But you could change this to say something like, on a scale of 1 to 5, how satisfied are you with your orientation? Hopefully that was correct. Length. Maybe you want to get an idea of if it's too long, if you need to cut it down to a half day from 3 days, you could kind of maybe enter in something like this. And then for the open response, you could say, something like this, where you're just asking for open-ended improvement. As we scroll down, the big important button will be to save that. So you can see that you've received a successfully updated up at the top. And then now this new question with the new survey title is going to lock in. In bright red, we have how many people are currently set to receive this survey if you were to send it out today. This brings us to how do we determine who these, in this case, 40 subjects actually are. So you have some options, like a lot of 10th Street. You can choose the different status. So in this case, we've defaulted over to send it to the hired status, but maybe you are a company that has some owner operators in your fleet and they're considered active, or maybe you call everyone an employee or a contractor. You would be able to determine what status you want to include to receive those surveys. So if I were to say, maybe instead of hired, we would just do hired probation and then remove hired, we can now see that it changes to 0 surveys being delivered. And then you can come back and select anything you need. This is going to be important. At least one status has to be selected. That's going to be the default filter that must be there. But if you want to get more granular for your FleetCheck, you can send it out to specific work lists. So if you have a work list structure where maybe there are different locations or terminals, maybe it's different driver types. You have your company drivers versus your owner operators and driver for fleet owners. You would be able to say, hey, this one is really going to be unique to my company drivers. I would like to only send it to the people who are company drivers out of our Dallas terminal. can see that now it's filtered down to 19 instead of 40 of them. And we can get even more specific with that cadence that I was talking about. So beneath that is going to be the select the send frequency. It's going to default when you first turn one to every week. That's a little much in my opinion, but we give you the opportunity to change it all the way out to once a quarter, or just even a single send. And so if we were to set it as a quarterly survey, you would get to choose what day of the week this delivers on. So maybe you want it to go out Tuesday morning. That's going to be Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central. You would be able to also say maybe the midday. That's going to be 1 p.m. I believe. And then evening is going to be 4 p.m. And then you have the ability to save that guy here, and that would lock in your dates. I'm going to go ahead and close out this one, and we will now see that 4 new survey entries have showed up. So that is going to be because we are looking at our 1-year outlook, and we're going to be able to see the next delivery date for all of these. So you can see very conveniently at the quarter, each new survey is going to send. It's going to give you who prepared that. So you'd be able to come in and say, all right, our safety manager prepared this FleetCheck to kind of go over the safety protocol covered in onboarding. And then maybe one comes in and it's about the recruiter. They really want to know if what their recruiter was telling the drivers happens to match up with what actually took place in orientation. And so you'll be able to see who last edited or prepared this survey, along with that title that I mentioned earlier. You can see now where there's 4 new entries, how the title can be important for distinguishing on your side. And then one piece that I did kind of glance over is this calendar shows up. And if we see it has a micro copy that tells us that it's going to reoccur and send out on multiple different occasions. If we were to come in and add a new FleetCheck survey, and we were to set it to send out once, you have the ability to select the specific date when you set it as a one-time send. So you can say, I want this one to go out tomorrow morning and save that. Now we're going to see that there's a little lightning bolt instead of our reoccurring calendar. The lightning bolt is going to mean that this survey is only going to send out a single time. Now, in the event that you're thinking, hey, I just set this default question, I wasn't thinking right, or maybe there's a typo in it, you can come back and click on our edit button to pull up the FleetCheck and edit it. As long as that survey hasn't sent out yet, you can make any changes you need to the survey title, the question, who's going to receive it, or you can even delete it. So I'm going to delete it with a confirmation of yes. And then it moved our table back to only showing the 4 reoccurring surveys. Now I'm going to jump over to the sent surveys side. Sent surveys is going to be where you get to review all of your data after you've sent them out. Pretty basic, right? And so you'd be able to get your title. If it has a little green dot here, that actually means that this survey is still active, so people can still technically receive it. It's in that 7-day time period. If I jump over to our other dashboard, and sorry for the whiplash over here, you'd be able to see how these sent surveys, some of them no longer have our green dot. That would just mean, hey, it's been longer than 7 days, so this one cannot be completed any longer. And so if we were to come in and want to get that feedback on our how would you rate your current truck condition, all you need to do is click on the little magnifying glass over on the right-hand side, and it's going to provide you with everything that you can get on your FleetCheck. So that question that was asked, the comments question, who prepared it. So in this case, it's a demo site, no one prepared it, but the user that turned this on would show up here, the last date that it was delivered out, and then who all was getting it. So everyone who is hired and everyone in a work list got this survey, but maybe for your organization, it's going to say contracted drivers in Dallas were the only ones who received it. Your recipients will be listed out. The responses and then the comments are actually separate things. You can respond to the survey with a score without leaving a comment. You'll get the response rate broken out along with the average score of on your scale of 1 to 5. And if we go up to our bar graph above, when you hover over, it's going to tell you how many people answered under this score. So 2 people gave you a 4, 2 people gave you a 3, 2 people gave you a 2, and 1 person gave you a 1. I hope I didn't just teach anyone on a webinar how to read a graph, but if you need notes, you can email account.managers. Underneath our little table here, the individual responses is going to list out everyone who responded to the survey, their status in their work list, and if they choose to self-disclose, we're going to give you their name. Now let's see if anyone here gave us an anonymous. They did not. So over on this survey, we can see that these were anonymous. And so with an anonymous survey, you're not going to get the status or the work list because you could maybe figure out who is giving you the feedback. And so we do keep it truly anonymous. But in the event that someone self-discloses, you do have the ability to come in here and get their information, and then you could even go and pull them up in your dashboard if you needed to communicate with them. But you would be able to see the entire comment that was left along with the score. I'm going to go ahead and close out of this, and I'm going to transition into what it looks like for your drivers to actually complete a FleetCheck. And so the main way that we're going to have people complete their FleetCheck is going to be through Pulse. They'll receive an email notification saying that you've assigned them a FleetCheck task, and then they would be able to go into their company page and then open up their tasks and see everything that you have sent. I mentioned earlier that the title does not transition over here, so it's just going to say FleetCheck survey. If they click it in, it's going to ask to verify their last 4. And then they're going to get this little form page. It's going to say, please note that this survey is anonymous unless you tell us otherwise. So our driver appreciation cookout is next week. Do you prefer smoked brisket or pork? And I can say that I'm a fan of hot dogs and that they should share my name. And if we were to go over and save this, it's as simple as that. That form has been submitted, your answer has been provided, and it took about 10 seconds all in with someone who's rambling to complete a FleetCheck. Now, if we open up our other FleetCheck survey here, you'll be able to see what one looks like when we have that scale of 1 to 5 question added. So this is going to say on a scale of 1 to 5, how satisfied are you with your current benefits package? They're able to come in and say, hey, 5, I'm very satisfied, or 1, I'm not. 3, I'm neutral. Maybe 4, I like it, but it could be better. And then what do you like and what could be better? Anything that they want to say here, they can enter in. So it's a text area field. You saw in Becca's response on the demo that there was a lot of good information here. And I think what's very powerful about the tool is it provides the actionable scale with the context of why they provided their answer. And so I'll go ahead and say that we are a 4 satisfied. and then we will not share this name. That has now been wrapped up. My tasks are finished for the FleetCheck. If we jump over into our dashboard now, we should see, if we do a little reset of the tool, a little harder reset maybe, back out and back in, that we have some responses in our benefits and our driver appreciation surveys here. By clicking on our magnifying glass, they now are visible. You're able to see the answer provided. And then you're also able to come in here and see that there is no score. The average score does not exist, so our bar is going to be gone. And then you're going to get their driver comment. And that is your FleetCheck tool. Becca, was there anything that I missed going over that you would like to chat on?
Nope, I think you did great, Davis. We'll just transition back. Gabby, if you want to share, we'll go back into the slides and we'll wrap it up. Perfect. All right, so Davis was able to present FleetCheck. You guys can see that there is a lot of different use cases to get that real-time live feedback from your fleet in an easy and convenient way. We also want to touch base with you guys as we have the 10th Street UConnect conference coming up in Las Vegas. It's just a few short months away, May 7th through 10th. If you haven't registered yet, we'd love to see you there. We'd love to talk to our clients, show you what we have planned for new and exciting things next year. We also have a promotion code going on that you can use through the end of this month for anybody wanting to register. You can use the link below, put in VDay200. You will get $200 off your registration fee, which ends at the end of this month. So we'd love to see you there as well. And then last, of course, we'd love to open up and see if anyone has any additional questions from today's presentation.
Yeah, so it looks like we just got one. Greg wants to know if they can limit who has access to the survey results.
The answer is yes.
Go ahead, Davis.
Yeah, the answer is yes there. You do have the ability to control the FleetCheck tool as kind of its own standalone. If you wanted someone to have access to FleetCheck, though, they get all of FleetCheck. We can't parse out once they have access to it, but we can control who does and who does not have access to the tool.
Perfect. That's a great question. And just to add, as Davis had mentioned earlier, is when you guys think about FleetCheck and some use cases and who on your team you would want to use this, know that this is just a great starting point, right? Davis had mentioned, hey, this can be in addition to like our insight surveys. And so we can start simple. And then as you guys get that data flowing in, we have a team of advisors here and account managers who can kind of guide you to that next level of retention, where we can do driver life cycle surveys. We can tie it into rewards as well to really make a comprehensive retention program. And it accomplishes a couple things, right? We want to give drivers a voice and let them know that they matter and their feedback matters. And we want to be able to recognize them for the hard work that they do. And so this is just your entry point of really being able to make that happen for your fleet. Perfect. Well, thank you. Is there any other questions that came in before we wrap up?
We did get one more. When creating a survey, is it possible to choose different hire dates to send the survey to specific drivers hired at specific times, or is FleetCheck just kind of an all or nothing thing?
That's a great question. Today, FleetCheck is going to be limited to the status in the work list. So there will not be tagging filters when we get down into it. 10th Street does offer a survey platform called the Insights Gold that does let you deliver surveys based off of tagged information, but FleetCheck is going to be a little bit more basic on what you can filter by today.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any more questions coming in, but we do have Becca and Davis's emails at the bottom. So if you think of anything else. Oh, we did just get a couple of other. Catherine, if you want to email your account managers, they'll be able to get you pricing for FleetCheck and Insights Gold. And I think that's all. Thank you guys all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.